Welcome to TNT episode 16, the actual Frozen review.
So by this time, it is frozen and not freezing. It's had plenty of time to freeze and it is frozen.
Yeah, actually by this time it's starting to thaw because...
Unfortunately, it's a bit warm out.
The movie came out before the winter set in. It was a long winter, and Taylor still hadn't seen this movie, but he's finally watched it, and that's why we're reviewing it today. We are here to review the movie Frozen. And this is a movie that everybody has seen. So we're not going to get...
Except for me until very recently.
Yeah, except for Taylor. That's why we
That's
had
why
to
we
show it
waited so
to
long.
him. Yeah, that's why we've waited long to review this. But he's finally seen it, and so now we can review this movie. Now, the only people I think that haven't seen it are probably people that just don't want to see it.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that are irritated by all the Let It Go and Do You Want to Build a Snowman parodies on YouTube, so I could understand not wanting to see the movie just because you're frustrated of all the parodies, but...
With any cultural phenomenon, that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, we could say right at the outset, is a cultural phenomenon for this year. My kids even, I have 6 kids, and they give it 12 thumbs up. And
I wouldn't be surprised if there's a Pandora station with just those 2 songs on it. That's how
Yeah.
popular they are.
But, you know, my kids are even asking me, was any movie as popular as this when you were young? Like, they think this is the biggest thing in the entire history of movies. Which for them, it
It's
is.
the biggest thing since sliced DVDs.
Okay, yeah. I'm not sure what that means, but there you
It's
go.
like sliced bread, but you can't eat it.
Oh, right. I think
You
that's
just put
called
it in the
mixing
DVD.
metaphors.
It could
Except
be.
that there's no real metaphor for a DVD. It's just slaughtering metaphors.
Okay,
We
that's
can
what
call
I'm
it.
good at.
So, let's talk about the plot, first of all. What's this movie about? We're just going to do a really quick review of what this
Because
movie...
y'all probably know... I hadn't even seen the movie and I already know the whole plot. Knew the whole plot. So.
Yeah, you almost don't have to watch the movie to know the plot. There are 2 princesses. Well, it's a Disney movie, so you got to expect...
There's
it's gonna
always at
be-
least one princess,
at least
but
one
they
princess.
really outdid themselves this time.
That's right. And they have 2 princesses, Elsa and her younger sister, Anna. It's spelled Anna. I have a daughter named Anna, but in the movie it's Anna.
But they're all like Nordic and stuff, so you have to pronounce it weird.
Elsa's not weird, though. It's not Elsa,
Elsa.
but it could have been. Anyway, those are the 2 sisters. Elsa has magic powers that she has trouble controlling, and Anna, her younger sister, doesn't have any powers.
No, she gets a personality instead.
Yeah, a
It's
lot
always
of
either
personality.
or
Yeah,
in Disney.
yeah. Well, you got to make the movie quick.
Yeah.
and to the point, so they don't always develop the characters fully. But these 2 young ladies, their parents die at the beginning of the movie.
Via plot convenience.
Yes, and Elsa afterward is crowned the queen of Arendelle, and then she is afterward in a time of great turmoil, and ends up putting the whole land in a cursed winter,
Mhm.
perpetual winter. Kind of reminds me of
Narnia, yes.
Yeah.
It could have easily been a prequel to Narnia if it had turned out a little bit differently.
Yeah, would have been an interesting plot twist. But it's basically a curse of everything being frozen, and hence the title of the movie, Frozen. But Anna eventually saves her sister through a sacrificial deed in saving her sister's life, and that ultimately removes the curse and allows Elsa to understand how to control her powers through the power of love. So I guess you could say Anna did actually have a power,
Mm-hmm.
and that she discovered in herself, and it's the power of love. So that's the plot in a nutshell.
Not a bad plot for a Disney movie.
Yeah,
It could be better.
we didn't
Could be a lot
include we
better.
didn't include everything. We're going to talk now about both positive and negative elements that we found in it, and the people that love the movie may not like the negative things we say.
No.
Sorry, but the people who hated the movie may not necessarily like all the positive things we have to say. So let's talk about negative first. Let's get the negative out of the way.
Yes.
What are some of the negative things in this movie?
Well, the plot is the biggest negative element. There's so many holes and contrivances in the plot.
Yeah.
The very beginning felt like it was trying to be Up, but Up started out by showing us 2 characters, giving us a reason to care about them and showing how they care about themselves, and so you really care about one of them dying because it's just
Yeah.
a
You
really
have
well
you
set
have
up.
a backstory in that movie. If
Uh-huh.
you don't know what we're talking about, it's the Disney movie Up.
Mhm.
And two
It's
main
a really good
characters.
movie.
Yeah, at the beginning they just tell this story in this very succinct and poignant manner of these two young children who meet, fall in love, get married, grow old together, and the wife dies. And it is just so well
It's
written.
mostly without words, and it's very quick, but it's very, very powerful scene. And
Whereas in this movie,
you get a couple seconds with the parents, you
Yeah.
see them being really bad parents, and you see them die, and you're supposed to care, and you don't. You just don't.
well, at least Taylor didn't.
No,
but-
Taylor doesn't
yeah.
care. Taylor doesn't care when people die, unless it's in Up.
But the point is, it didn't resonate with you.
Right.
And this was just one example of where the plot sometimes just seemed very contrived.
Mm-hmm.
You had other areas in the movie where it just seemed like they were
There's-
just trying to use characters, use elements just to
Mhm.
move the story
The
forward.
villain, Hans, he is
Yeah.
revealed to be the villain in his second to last scene. He's had at least 4 scenes before that where he's shown to be a good guy. You could have completely removed him from the story, and you would have still had the conflict and resolution of the story able to work perfectly well, so he wasn't a very good villain. You could have had him good throughout the whole story. It still would have worked. It kind of could have been like the
Right.
Scarecrow in Hell's Moving Castle. I'll probably get to that movie in sometime in the future.
It was trying to be a plot twist.
It was trying to be an
but-
M. Night Shyamalan. That's what it was trying to be. And we
Yes,
all know who that
it was just like The Sixth Sense. It really was. Almost, but not really. It was actually, in my opinion, a pretty poorly done plot
Mhm.
twist. At least that's how I felt about it. Maybe
And-
our viewers wouldn't agree, but
Just for a point of reference, I think that the middle of the story was pretty good because that's where all the characterization happened. We're going to get to that in a bit. But the beginning and end were pretty shoddily put together, and I think that the story would have worked a lot better if the story had been focusing actually more on Elsa and maybe everybody knowing that she has these powers and everybody being afraid of her, and it being partially about her relationship with her people and kind of trying to ignore that everybody's afraid of her and trying to just pretend everything's all great, and maybe Hans pretending to be in love with her to marry into the throne, kind of like he was doing with Anna, and then the big revelation not being that he's the bad guy, but him just revealing that no, he doesn't really love her, and saying, "Oh, come on, you really believe that? You should have like."
so if,
There could have been an easy
so
way
if,
to go
if
about
Taylor
this.
had written the movie, it would have been even better and more successful. But all that being said, overall, we felt maybe, I don't know if it was, to me, the best Disney movie ever.
It was a pretty good one.
it was a good one,
especially
though.
considering what
It's
they've done in
good.
recent years.
Yeah, so let's talk about what we saw in it now. That was definitely good elements. One thing is the art.
The art is amazing.
Yeah.
The direction of it was really nice. Even though I didn't like the plot of the beginning, the art direction in the beginning, where just the colors and everything contrasting the different
Yeah.
emotions, and it's really nice. And
Making full use of the technology of
Right,
computer animation now.
snow animation and the ice animation and the hair animation and the
Yeah.
cloth physics were all absolutely stunning. It was
Yeah.
some of the best.
We give
Tintin
lots
is
of
the
thumbs
only-
up for the animation.
Yes,
as you can
Tintin
tell.
is the only other 3D movie I've ever seen, which was a completely
That was
3D movie
right.
that did it as well.
What's interesting too is with Tintin, it was trying to be very
Mhm.
realistic in the way that it
Whereas
portrayed
they
everything.
were
Whereas-
trying to stylize this
Right.
movie, but still using really good technology for it.
Yes,
and
they
it
knew
worked really well.
They knew in this movie when to make something look very realistic, but by and large, they still had a very, like you said, stylized,
Uh-huh.
very animated
And
kind of feel to
During Olaf's scene, suddenly everything looks like it's from VeggieTales. They had the same technology, just it looks more cartoony and
Yep.
happier.
this. They knew how to
really, really
yeah,
well done.
Yeah, they really knew how to capitalize on their use of artwork and animation.
Mhm.
So that was really good. Another thing about the movie I really liked, and you can tell this more if you watch it repeatedly, is just that while we had some issues with the plot itself, I like the fact that it's very quick paced. It's very interestingly told.
The middle of the story is very good in that regard.
Yeah, and really one thing to the next when you're watching it, it's one of those movies where you're like, oh, I like this scene coming up. Oh, I like this scene coming up. To me, that's a sign of a well-told
Mhm.
story, is that you're looking forward to each part. You're not like,
Yeah.
oh, this is the boring part of the movie. I don't think this movie has a boring part.
Yeah, even at the end when it starts to drag, it moves quickly enough that you don't just kind of feel like you're like, oh, just get to the...
Yeah, I know.
It
Right.
still
It
moves
just-
quickly enough that it doesn't feel that
There was
bad.
one time where I would have thought it could get boring, and it was basically right before they introduced the Olaf character, and then all of a sudden it's really good. And that brings us to the next really good point.
There was really nice characterization of... They just had a lot of little... Most of them, a lot of little idiosyncrasies here and there, and a lot of times what you see in animated movies and even just movies in general is they'll just splash a accent or a funny quirk onto somebody and that's their character.
You're supposed to laugh
And
at this.
that's what you kind of see with the henchmen bad guys in the background, but they really did a good job, especially with
the main
Anna
characters,
and Olaf and Kristoff and Sven too. They layered enough stuff on that you do feel like they're their own characters and
Absolutely.
they're very
The
likable.
acting in this movie is some top-notch acting. And I have to say, there's an element of just kind of unknown magic that happens sometimes with a movie. It doesn't happen with every movie. Even with some good actors, it doesn't always happen. But I think that's one of the reasons this movie is so successful. It just had chemistry. It really did.
Olaf isn't just a slapstick sidekick, which is what he could have easily been. He's got a kind of like morbid sense of humor because he kind of like knows that he's gonna die every so often, but he doesn't care. He's a happy little
It's kind of naive morbidity.
Right.
Is
like,
how I
oh look, I've been impaled.
Yeah.
Oh, it looks like I'm gonna die.
He kind of reminds me of someone I know. But anyway, I won't get into that.
And then you kind of got Anna's psychotic side. She's not just so much. It started kind of feel like she was just like Rapunzel from Tangled, but then she's crazy. She's like,
and that's what Taylor really liked about it.
Different mental disorders. It was just hilarious to, like, you literally just don't know what she's gonna do next. It was really neat to see.
And it's not just the characters themselves. It's just the way that
everybody interacts.
It's almost. I was telling Taylor, I think it was almost like they let them ad lib a little bit, and just some things came out that how would they have planned that, unless the character interaction just. Kind of brought it to that. So
the same person wrote Frozen who wrote Wreck-It Ralph, and I didn't get the same sense of great characters and
chemistry.
I think it was definitely the people involved more than just the writing. Unfortunately, unfortunately on one side, fortunately on another side.
You can't plan for that. That's just something I think that happens. I've heard of creators of artistic works like this saying, they brought it to the theater and they were amazed at how the audience responded. And I think to some degree, this movie's that way. I don't know if they were even ready just for how well this was going to be received. But it had chemistry. One other thing that really added to that or really undergirded that chemistry is the music.
Yes.
The music.
I don't even.
You don't even like. He doesn't.
I don't
like
care
music.
about Disney songs most of the time, but these were really, really good. I liked pretty much every song.
And
that
part
they did in the movie.
of that is the lyric quality of these songs is very. Some of the lyrics I just found to be so witty. I was noticing Taylor. He was watching it, and I was watching it for I don't know how many times now. He's watching it for the first time. He was really laughing at the song. He's a bit of a fixer-upper, and just
which is coincidentally the one I like the least. Like it was, even though I didn't like it quality-wise as much as the others, it still really made me laugh. I was still comfortable with just like, oh, this is just trying to be. No, it felt like
humor is just something that either works or it doesn't. This movie, even the lyrics had humor, and then of course the song "Let It Go." And we didn't talk about this earlier, but one reason that the plot does seem contrived is because apparently
the movie was completely rewritten for this song. It was originally going to be that I don't even know if Anna was going to be in it to begin with, but originally Anna and Elsa weren't sisters, and Elsa was just a standard Disney villain who was going to use her ice powers to destroy the town or invade it, whatever. And then they came up with a song. They're like, oh, that doesn't really fit her so well, so let's rewrite it so that it's more about relationship and true love and sisters, which was a pretty good change, I think.
And the song is definitely, it's become a classic. It's a cultural icon. right now. This song, "Let
For
It
the
Go."
wrong reasons.
And we'll talk about that a little later. What are the
Mhm.
messages in this movie? What do you get out of it? But let's just say for now, "Let It Go" has become a real classic song.
Mhm.
Also, the song "In Summer" is another really witty, funny
Yeah.
song. And that one, what I read, was written for the actor Josh Gad, who plays Olaf. And the writers of the song knew what he was capable of, knew what he sounded funny doing, and so they wrote that song particularly for his voice and for his character.
And it really came through.
It worked. It worked. And so you could just tell in this movie, part of the magic of it is the music. It's just one, again, when you watch it repeatedly, that's when you notice some of these things. I've watched it multiple times, and every time I've enjoyed the music more and more. That's the sign of a great movie. So now let's talk about what are the messages that come out in this movie. This is where it gets controversial. I think more than in any way is what's this movie really trying to say. There are some people who feel like it has a bad message or a very mediocre message at best, and other people who would say no, it has a good message. It's a good Disney movie.
The weirdest end of the scale is the cases I've heard where it's some offshoot. I don't know if it's necessarily a cult, but some kind of branch that calls itself Christianity but is really hyper in some really odd direction, usually not even Pentecostal, but just
You're
kind
saying
of out in
that
left
there are
field.
forms of Christianity that
Oh,
are
I'm not-
cultish?
Oh, I wouldn't even start suggesting. But anyway, they say like this is a bad movie because
Yeah.
it's saying it's disrupting the order of man and woman marriage.
Oh, okay.
It's saying homosexuality is good, bestiality is good, which is just looking too far into
Wow.
it.
Whoa. Yeah.
Like that's really, really looking too far into it. But there are
yeah.
an unfortunate number of people who are saying
there is a legitimate concern though that people have. Let's talk about that. And it is with the song "Let It Go" and how people have taken that song.
Right. If you ask random person on the street what they thought the song meant, they're probably going to say that it's a kind of just stereotypical believe in yourself message.
It's
you
kind
can
of an
be
anthem.
you can be strong. You don't need
Yeah.
other people. Just
Let it go.
you're the only person who matters. Just be yourself, and that's all you really need. And that's something I'm going to touch on a lot in the animation series kind of thing that I'm going to be doing. Is there's a lot of animated films, especially that they're either on one side or another of this spectrum of you're the person that matters, believe in yourself, and don't run away from your problems, because there's the obvious problem that life is difficult, especially in relationships with other people. You can either isolate yourself one way or another, just only care about yourself, or think that you're just worthless and that you don't even matter, or know that you have to interact with problems in life and other people, and that you just can't run away from that. And the song is about just being yourself and knowing that you don't need other people because it's just about you, but that's really not what the movie itself is about.
No, actually, if you look at it in the context of the movie, I think the overall message is that what she's doing is really tragic.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, she is acting out in this way to say, I'm just going to try to make it on my own, but she's ultimately shutting people out, shutting her whole world to herself, caving in, and ultimately it leads to a life of aloofness and pain for herself and others.
It's when she uses what is making her different to help other people that she is able to overcome the whole first kind of part of the movie is building up her panicking and getting depressed and really scared because she can't control what she's feeling and doing, and so she's told to just bottle it up and not let it out, and then she just lets it all out and doesn't care about other people, and that's when the problem arises. And then when she lets it out to help in a display of doing what she knows is the right thing, that's when the problem is fixed.
Yeah, it's actually a really good message if you think about what Taylor just said.
A lot of people don't.
It's not. It's not about what's inside you as much as it is what are you going to do with it.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads to a very good theme, actually, of this movie that I have to say. There is something that comes out in this movie, and it's the concept of love and what is love. And Olaf actually says, at one point, love is putting someone else's needs above your own.
You never see that in a Disney movie. The whole thing is a deconstruction of the stereotypical Disney romance. Like that's
Putting someone else's needs above your
That's-
own. Yeah,
like,
it's very different.
like you like you've mentioned when we were talking about before, Enchanted does the same kind of thing, but it doesn't work the same way because you're taking the context of one world and juxtaposing it into the context of our world, and it looks ridiculous because it's two clashing.
It is ridiculous.
But in Frozen, people in the context of her world are looking at her like she's crazy for wanting to marry somebody she's just met. Which it's obvious that she's just being naive in the movie for thinking of true love in this way.
And he's talking about how Anna is just
Right.
so quickly
Sorry.
wanting to marry this person that she
Right.
just met.
Like half an hour,
And they
he
do,
says, "Will you
they
marry
do,
me?"
they do make, they do downplay that and make that look foolish. And instead, in contrast to that, they show that true love is actually willingly and with knowledge saying, "I'm going to put this other person's
Mhm.
needs above my own." And Anna actually ultimately does this greatest act of love.
She
puts
turns
herself-
away. She thinks that the true love of Kristoff coming and kissing her is going to break the spell, and that she only has a little bit of time left, otherwise she's going to die. She thinks that she has a chance. She instead chooses to go and thinks she's going to just be in the way of somebody trying to kill her sister and knows that she's probably going to die from it instead of saving her own life.
Yeah.
And that's what allows her to stop her sister from being killed.
It's a really great picture of love, and
Mhm.
it's interesting. You know, we've talked about this before. We're Christians. We come at things from a Christian perspective, and you know, when we talk about love as Christians, we see that Jesus laying down his life
Mhm.
was the greatest act of love, and that's
Greater
actually
love
what
has
happened.
no man than to lay down your life for a friend.
That's what Jesus said. And that's what Anna actually does in this movie. She lays down her life. I found that this movie was much more Christian in its overarching theme, its punchline, than the Noah movie.
Mm-hmm.
By far.
There weren't
So-
babies being killed, there were just parents being killed in
Yeah.
this movie.
This movie is actually far more Christian in its message. We're not saying it had, you know, a perfect message or anything.
No,
Obviously, some is what you take out of it, what you personally see. So
And it's unfortunate that the average person's probably not going to read that from it. They're just going to see, let it go. That's the message of the
Well,
movie.
I think you're right. Some people latch on to the let it go, but I think many people understand that the
Yeah.
bottom line message of the movie is about love.
I just need to meet these people.
Yeah. Oh, really?
Yes.
They're not part of the Frozen.
They're not
fan
part
club.
of the
Yeah.
everybody. I'm sure there's plenty of people out there. They're
We
probably
know
just not the
our informed audience
They're
agrees
probably just the kind of
that
people
this
who are-
movie's about love, right? Write to us and let us know what you think about everything that
The
we're
people
saying.
who see the right message are probably the kind of people who aren't going to go and make parody videos of it and put it on YouTube anyway. So that could be a very large part of it.
Speaking of parody videos, one other thing we want to mention before we wrap up here is that there is a video about Frozen you really need to watch if you haven't already.
Don't worry, it's not a Let It Go parody.
No, it's not. We wouldn't put you through that. You've probably already been through enough. It's the How It Should Have Ended video.
I'm going to put a
for
link in the
movie-
description.
Yes,
You
for the
check it
movie
out.
Frozen
Yes.
specifically.
Some of them are a little edgy. You might not want to.
Yeah.
No, this one's fine.
This one we recommend. It's clean. It's
Mm-hmm.
really a great parody of this movie and makes some really good points
Mhm.
in satire about the plot.
Yeah.
So we encourage you to watch that. With all that said, we thank you very much for watching
Yes,
this episode.
thanks for sticking with us thus far. It's been 16 episodes. It's quite a ways.
Woo! 16 episodes, and we're going to keep them coming.
Mhm.
We welcome your feedback, and just write your comments to us. You can email us. Also, we just hope that you'll continue to keep watching and tell other people about this program.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe, spread the word, and see you next time.